Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast, hosted by Joshua Shaw and Ryan Buckeye.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside episode 1, the first time ever. Josh Shaw, Ryan Buckeye, Two Guys, One Shaker Cup. That's right, Two Guys, One Shaker Cup. We're not kidding. That is legit the name of our new podcast. And for those of you who don't know who we are, well, welcome. Josh Shaw, owner of J. Shaw Consulting, literally one of the smartest and wisest minds in the CPG industry. I'm not just going to pigeonhole you in sports nutrition, my man, because you work with big accounts from Whole Foods to other CPGs. So you need to pat yourself on the back and take credit for being, as people on the interwebs say, a genius. Do you believe you're a genius?
No, I think people maybe think a little bit too highly of me. I would say I'm just a normal guy that's intensely curious about a lot of subjects.
Can you shotgun a beer?
I could, yeah. No,
So then you
if
are
you guys
a normal
saw,
guy.
if you guys met me in college or before college, you guys would have seen a different side of me.
And if you're watching on YouTube or watching this video on social and you look at Josh, it's true. He just graduated from college probably 6 months ago. That's how young this guy is. He looks.
Yeah, that's.
Myself, I am a CEO of Fitness Informant. I run a fitness-based platform in which I try to educate the end consumer. But here's the premise. Josh and I, we speak literally all the time because we're in the same space. We're in the same realm. We have a lot of similarities in our thoughts. We have a lot of similarities in our backgrounds. And case in point, we both have advanced education. We have master's degrees within business. So we get along great. But at the same time, Josh, you and I both can agree to disagree on topics and take differing stance and have differing opinions on things, which we thought, like, this is an opportunity for us to get together, literally shoot the shit as two dudes, two guys, one shaker cup.
Yeah.
And actually probably put some content out there in which is going to be thought-provoking. It's going to be educational. It's going to be therapeutic for you and I just to, like, let it go, because we get pretty hot and heated about things at sometimes. So here's an opportunity for us to do our thing. So I'm excited about this, man. I'm stoked.
Yeah, no, I think I'm extremely excited about this. I think it's one of those things where we talk so much, and it's when we get off of a call, we're always like, man,
yeah,
if people would have just heard that conversation, they would have either laughed their ass off or they would have been, got some insight that normally we don't put out to our followings, because I think we're both real, authentic people to our followings. I think that's what makes us great. But I think that we're very focused. I think that we have a goal in mind with what we're trying to accomplish with our own personal businesses or our own personal channels. And the conversations we have are usually more geared around just us just being two guys that would, if we lived in the same city, we'd be hanging out, on the daily night, working out, hanging out on the weekends. But we don't, unfortunately, live in the same until you get out of the tundra. So
yeah. My God, if you can convince my wife to get me the hell out of here, I am all on board with that. And Austin is a beautiful place. A beautiful, beautiful place. Listen, dude, so you and I both, I mentioned it, we went and got an MBA. The reason we got an MBA is obviously a couple of reasons. Like, we wanted to be successful in life. We wanted to take the education from our institutions and apply it into real life, whether we be an executive for a firm or, in our case, we literally own and operate our own business that supports our entire income. Like, this is how we make a living. So we're living the dream. We're able to do what we want to do. And the MBA, I think, definitely plays a part into that. But I want to challenge people, and I want to have this conversation with you, is I also feel that being physically fit, having a strict regimen when it comes to nutrition, also impacts our ability to be successful as a human being or as business owners. And I want to say, I've read numerous reports on this, and I've talked about this before, Josh, because the stats are there. Like, they've done stats on people who actually personally write down whether or not they feel that they themselves are physically attractive. And then what they do is they track their earning potential over time, and the stats show that those who claim that they feel themselves are physically attractive actually earn upwards of 5% or more than those who are unattractive. Actually, studies have shown that the unattractive could earn as less than 9% as others. Case in point, like, I'm not going to say this is case in point, but if you look at the vast majority of chief executive officers in Fortune 500 companies, I would say, and this is without looking them up, but I would say that majority of them are probably physically fit, probably follow a good diet because it can relate and pertain to so many other aspects of their life. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think because I think I work outside of general, sports, like more of like the functional CPG categories of like what we do on our day to day a lot of times. Like I've worked in, the major big three beverage portfolios. I've worked in salty snacks. I worked in, and you even had at General Mills. It's kind of like when you're in those offices, you definitely don't feel like you are like everybody else, especially if you are, bringing in your own meal, or maybe you even bring in your shaker cup, or you bring in, God forbid you bring in a, gallon of water or something. You do like you look like an alien. So, I think it's what we do day in and day out. I think it's definitely prominent that people that are in shape, they're usually, they live the lifestyle. They're part of that. But then you look at other industries. One famous one, I watched a documentary recently, or maybe last couple of years, I watched a documentary on, for the longest time, one of the richest people in the world. It's still, I think, maybe number 2 to Jeff Bezos, but Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
I mean, he pinnacle in terms of, earnings, successful businessman on so many different kind of areas you can think about, even if you just don't think just money. I think he's 88 years old now too. So, I mean, he's lived a long life. He's still very active. He's constantly out there traveling. So it's not like he's sitting in Omaha, Nebraska in his house with his wife and just relaxing. So he's still out there being active, but he's notorious for I don't think he works out or used to work out during, his life, but even his diet today, he's big on like Diet Cokes or cherry Coke. Like I think he drinks at least a 2-liter a day, which is,
does he have an
especially if it's
in
cherry
Coke?
Just like non-Diet Coke. If you think it's just cherry Coke, it's a lot of sugar in itself. One of the funniest things he does is but he eats breakfast after the market opens, like the stock market opens, and depending on if the stock market is up or down, determines what he eats for breakfast. So he always goes to McDonald's, but
for breakfast every day.
Yeah, every day. Goes to the drive-thru at McDonald's, and he either gets, I think, like if the stock market's up, he gets something like a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. And if it's down, he gets 2 sausage patties, which I've never ordered 2 sausage patties. So that's kind of weird to me. But, I mean, it's Warren Buffett. So if it works for him, maybe we should be trying that. But he's also kind of into fast food, which is it's more common than you think. I mean, I started to look into this recently of some of the CEOs' diets just because I was kind of curious about it. I've also played around with the idea of maybe doing some different trials on myself just to kind of see how things go, like maybe a 30-day or a week or something, try something different just to see how I react. But he's notorious for eating ice cream for lunch, like at Dairy Queen. He eats hot dogs. He eats chicken parm for dinner. He's that's his diet. And this is day to day, every single day. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized there was a lot of these super high earning, I'm talking Fortune 25, the highest, billionaire type people. Their eating habits are terrible, which starts to make you think a little bit. We live a pretty strict fitness, health, lifestyle. I mean, you more than me, but over the average person, we both are exceptionally more fit and
for sure,
healthy to them in terms of how we eat. But we maybe have been it's a surroundings thing, we're around it so much that we feel like that's the way to be successful, where maybe there's another way to think about it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to completely change the way that I do things, but as one example, 2017, I had my best earning year by far. It was just, and this is, I think it's important probably for us to note, is money equal success? I don't, you know what I mean?
I think in most people's eyes, it's probably yes. But I mean, to your point, what is success and how do we define it? Is it mental stability, mental health? Is it happiness? Is it home work, or work-life balance, right? Because if you just mentioned made the most you've ever made, I don't know if you were working 3x what you work now, but if you are, then your home life balance is shot to shit.
Yeah, I mean, that was what it was, 7 days a week, 14, 16-hour days. It was wake up, work until you're tired, and the only time you take a break is, to go to the restroom or to grab something to eat. I would eat maybe twice a day. I would eat 2 big meals, and the meals were I'm talking In-N-Out, Chipotle, Taco Bell.
People are salivating right now at the mouth.
I know. This is why, frozen pizzas that I'd get a DiGiorno or some ice cream or what, that was literally all I ate. But health-wise, I struggled. I was able to perform in long hours for a lot of period of time. And I don't know if that's just the refined sugars or, my love for energy drinks and pre-workouts or whatever it was. I was still obviously consuming a ton of that, but if we're equating success to purely earning potential or earning power, I by far had my best earnings that. Now, I learned that was not healthy. And then the first probably 3 months of 2018, I completely changed things and was able to live a better lifestyle and still make, just as much, a little bit less or whatever. But it was my choice to do that. Right. I think, but I felt better. I felt more successful in 2018 in terms of my definition of success as a business person, because I was able to balance things, like as you said, I was able to, get back into the gym. I was able to eat healthier and just live a better lifestyle. But I think it's important for people to realize maybe like sheerly just earning potential. I don't know if it has anything to do with diet and nutrition. I don't know.
It also sounds like what you're talking about too, Josh. When you made the most money you've ever made doing your thing for yourself, it almost sounds like you were working quite a bit more than you are now. So I would want to challenge the conversation and say, okay, if you look at your earnings throughout that time divided by the amount of hours you worked versus what you have now, are you actually making more per hour now, living a more fit, healthy life than you were then because you were working 2-3x in terms of hours? I don't know. I mean, that would be a question. Was the earnings an extension of the time that you put in? Or, I mean, we can't. I don't know if we can correlate it to a diet. Like, I'm not saying like we can't sit here and say I earned 3x because I ate Taco Bell. Like, that's not going to happen, right? But
unless Taco Bell wants to sponsor me, I love Taco Bell still. So if you want to hit me up, I would love to get some free cheesy gordita crunches or something. Yeah,
I don't know if they still made it. But I mean, I think overall, like you were super successful. So I don't think we can sit here and say definitively if you are not in shape, you can't be successful. Like that would be an arrogant statement to make, and it would be incorrect. Yeah. But I think overall, if you look at like the sea of successful people, and this is completely my opinion. I don't have stats or facts on this. My personal opinion is those who are physically fit, there are a couple things that happens with that. One, when you walk into the room, you demand the attention of everybody around you because of your physical appearance. People are attracted to those who are attractive. Number two, you yourself exude confidence. Like you become so much more confident as an individual, and those who are more confident walking into a work environment tend to be more successful because they tend to take more risks. They tend to like do better at their jobs. I mean, so like back to the study that I mentioned earlier, those who were physically fit earned more money. That's twofold, right? If you're the HR director, I walk into a room, you're probably more attracted to me right off the get-go because of the way I look. And the resume, albeit it's important, you're still fascinated by my physical appearance. And you as an HR rep or as a hiring manager might say, look, this person is physically fit. Obviously, they're hardworking. They're committed. They know how to get things done. So that's something that doesn't necessarily show up on a resume. So they already have that predisposition about you. And then you look at and obviously you have to have a resume that can back up your work ethic. But you look at somebody like The Rock, right? I mean, The Rock is not Seth Curry, who is a all-star basketball player. But The Rock has made more money for Under Armour than I think any athlete in that company has signed. I don't know the numbers, but I'm pretty sure he's outsold Seth Curry. And he's not necessarily an athlete anymore, but he's just his physical dominance and what he posts on Instagram. And he posts to the world his workouts and his diets. And one of his pictures, his cheat meals, gets like more likes than anything any NBA basketball player can post. And it's because I think people are attracted to not only his physical appearance, but to his work ethic and to his, hardest worker in the room mantra that he goes by. And he is so successful. And he works, I think, probably just as many hours as maybe you did when you were, making all that money too. But he is like the epitome of like being physically fit, following a strict diet has ultimately led to his success. And he'll argue that it's probably not that, but it's his work ethic. But part of his work ethic is the fact that he still clangs and bangs in the gym at 3 a.m. And he takes an entire gym with him across the world. Like he literally has his Iron Paradise shipped to him in every country because it's that important for him to have that sort of mental release, that therapy, the iron therapy, which is what I call it, that helps him then become better at everything else he does in his day. I mean, do you know any statistics behind weightlifting or resistance training as it relates to stress reduction and ability to perform at higher levels? I mean, I think those exist. I don't know the necessary stats.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just intuitively, I would think it makes sense. I mean, I've always used weight training as kind of a stress reliever.
Right.
I would say these last couple of years have definitely been more of a struggle because of the access people have to anybody. Like, just like, it's tough to just shut your phone off or shut your day down or whatever, where it used to be very easy, and it used to just, I think the busier you get, the more, and busy and successful maybe don't relate to each other, but just the more that you have going on, especially as an entrepreneur, the less time you have to have people not really try to bother you, I guess. And so it's tough to get that level that maybe we used to have, like pre cell phones, pre, multiple internet or multiple email addresses, any of that kind of stuff. But I think that overall it just gives somebody an outlet that is probably a little bit better than maybe going out and having a couple beers or, whatever is that stress relief. I mean, I people can argue if weight training to the level of maybe what you and I do, or people that are, that might be another form of
sure.
mild addiction or something like that. But it's, whatever that release is. And I just intuitively, it makes sense. And I think the example on The Rock maybe is a little bit, he's very, as an actor, as a, front person, he has to look a certain part. So there's an aspect of like his job relates to doing that, where, if we talk about, Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or, Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or, even the president, Donald Trump, I guess Trump's always on TV as well. And he's kind of the opposite, where it's like again, I don't know if he works out at all. It doesn't look like it. Maybe in his earlier days, he put down some time in the gym,
sure.
but he's all about. Again, he's like self-proclaimed love for McDonald's. He like loves. He talks about how cleanly McDonald's is. He's like a McDonald's lover. I think like what I remember his meal there is pretty insane. I don't know if do you know his go-to meal, Ryan?
No idea. No idea. I'll be full candid. I try to not talk or hear about anything from that guy.
So I don't want, like, obviously we're talking about Trump, and I don't want anybody to think like this is political. Trust me, we're never going to be going in that direction. But I think it's top. This is important to the topic here. So his go-to meal is he gets 2 Big Macs, 2 fillet of fish, which that's got to be the lowest thing you could get there. I don't know. Like, you get the fillet of fish. That's terrible. And he gets I think like a chocolate shake or something. I think it's like 2,500 calories. That's like his go-to. And he just like people have said he just mouths it down. Like, no, like just so quick. And this is like, and I don't know if you saw like when like the national champions go there or like any of the teams, like he gets them fast food spreads. Like that's what he gets them. Like these kids are like pumped to go. And obviously they're just pumped to go to the White House in general. That's just an experience that you're never going to forget. I don't care who's the president, what your belief is. None of us are going to be able to have a meal with Donald Trump and maybe able to talk to him, or any president that's sitting at that time. Not many of us are going to be able to do that, but you get that, you get excited, but then he serves you McDonald's or Burger King or something like that. It's just kind of comical.
And that the media outlets were like, we're shocked by it. It was covered on everything.
It's just so funny. I don't know. I think I talked about it earlier, but if you think about some of these people that maybe are not in the limelight, and I think entrepreneurship's changing. I think people now are more interested in what the entrepreneur, their day-to-day life is, their, what they're all into, whatever. And I think that it seems like the older, I don't want to be this ageism thing, but a lot of the older billionaires and things that are on there, like their diets are just terrible. Like Bill Gates, or even, the late Steve Jobs and stuff like that. They were just really big on just eating these weird things that we would not think is appropriate or something that would a successful person do, especially with the amount of money and amount of, like, they should have their own personal chefs, like they cooking them some super optimized, like personalized meal. Like, think about all the personalized nutrition stuff that's going on in our space with like supplements and just CPG in general. Like, they should be at the forefront of that. Like, they should be having their stuff dialed in by their blood, like their external variables. Like, they should be the poster boy of those things, because they have the availability to do it. Like, you and I, regardless of what level we are in success right now, we don't have access to that. We have to try to dial it in based around experience or what we know about our own body, where they have access to just probably 24-hour like monitoring if they wanted to.
I mean, Mr. Trump, what do you want for dinner tonight? Says his personal chef. I'll take
Yeah.
2 Big Macs, 2 filet of fish, and a chocolate. What? Okay, so my question then, I would love to be able to find out then, do they eat this way because it's their way of coping with stress? Because everybody knows when you eat food, like there's food addictions because that's the way people cope with stress, and it releases dopamine levels within the body, which makes you feel happy and feel better and relieve that stress. Like, is it a form of stress reduction, or is it because they actually just like to eat that stuff and like that's what they do? I mean, that would be like, these are some super interesting topics and conversations I wish we could have with some of these successful people, because for me as an entrepreneur, granted, I am not on the level of Warren Buffett. Never, I don't think I ever will be. I would love to, but like I make it a priority because my business is fitness related. So obviously I have to look the part. But even before I did this, so my personal story is I used to be a chubby little bastard. Like I was, and I was miserable. I was mentally exhausting, and like I had confidence because I knew I was book smart and I was smart and I could do well at my job. But I'll tell you, when I got in shape, when I started changing my eating habits, my earnings, my advancement like skyrocketed so much quicker because I felt better about myself. I had more confidence in my work. Obviously the MBA helped too, but it just changed who I was as a person. So it had a direct correlation to my mental alertness and my cognitive abilities as a person, because I felt better, therefore allowing me to go out and get anything that I wanted, and I have. So that's my personal story, is like it's going to validate, I guess, my assumption that diet, nutrition, and fitness does lead to overall success when it comes to earnings, with several outliers like your Warren Buffetts, like your Donald Trumps. But I want to ask you, Josh, like in the scheme of things, if you look at we look at the Fortune 200, the top 200, out of those, like what percentage of those CEOs do you think would openly admit that they work out and that they try to follow a fairly decent diet? Like just gut instinct.
I mean, I would have to say it's probably under 50%.
You think
like
so?
Wow. I think, I mean, and I think that depends on what they define as maybe physical fitness and stuff. Maybe these guys are into different, or guys or girls are into different things that we wouldn't consider. Like, I think hitting the actual gym and like weightlifting, I think would be
sure
probably. And I think it also goes into like, there's probably also an age part of that where like Fortune 200, I think it's time in, you know, like the amount of money you make generally is dictated by how long you've been making money. So it's like a lot of those guys are a little bit older, so maybe they're not putting in the time. But I don't know. I mean,
it'd be super interesting. I'm sure there might be, and if any of our listeners like know this or have any insight on this, like I'd love to hear it, because I think I'd love to hear their opinion as well. Like I would love for them to comment on the video or the podcast and like share with us what you think. What's your gut instinct? Like those who, in whether it's Fortune 200 or even just in general, the general consensus, like is it you don't have to be physically fit to make money, but does it help? I think is the question. And like I would say yes, it does.
Yeah, I mean, I fundamentally agree with you. I think there's outliers, there's personal experience, things that maybe, you know, there's so many variables. I think it's tough to isolate. We're not in a vacuum. We're not, you know, this is the Taco Bell that I ate didn't make me perform better as much as I would love for that to happen, because think about, I mean, I would be buying Taco Bell stock right now to make sure that when everybody realized that it does increase performance, people will be going out there and buying all kinds of good stuff.
For sure. I mean, I was mentioning to you earlier, and I'm going to mention it now. Like, there is an equality gap in America between men and women earnings. It's just the fact of it. I believe last year, I think out of the Fortune 500 companies, there was, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, was there like 24 or only 44 of them were women? Like, I mean, for women CEOs, it was such a small amount.
Yeah, I think it's like 5%. Yeah,
such a small amount, and like there's a gap there. It's closer with people who are younger, those who are just graduating college. Men and women tend to earn very similar incomes coming out of college, but later on in life, when those executive positions open up, men kind of get slotted into them. That's not fair. I'm not saying it's fair, but I'm saying if you also then look at somebody who is physically fit versus somebody who is unattractive, I would venture to guess that the equality gap is similar. And that's a bold statement that I'm making, that with no factual data behind it, but that's just a gut instinct to me. That I would say if two people walk into the room with very similar resumes, one is attractive and one might not be so attractive, I would say the person who's attractive is getting that job. And I'm not saying that's fair or unfair, but I think that's just the way it is. And it can go back to like men and women. It's not fair that men get slotted into these executive roles and that they make more than women. It's not saying that they're more incapable than a woman to do that job. Just like somebody who's physically fit, that's not saying they're more capable than somebody who's unattractive. But the way our society works and the perception that we have of people who are physically attractive, it overshadows some of our decision making sometimes, and they get slotted into those roles. And that's my personal belief. I feel like if you are physically attractive, you're probably going to get a better opportunity down the road than somebody who's not. Fair or unfair, it's kind of the way it is.
So you're saying, like, subconsciously, people that have to make the decisions to, advance somebody, or, the gatekeepers, subconsciously they're making decisions based around something that maybe doesn't have anything to do with how well that person's going to perform. It's just kind of like, I think
it's a bold statement by me. It's very bold, but I feel like the human mind and how we make decisions sometimes, it's flawed. It really is. I mean, you can look at a lot of things out there that we don't agree with. And I'm not saying in my experience that I was ever given a job or I've ever received a job in front of somebody who should have. Like, I'm very confident in what I do, but I bet you any money it happens more often than we like to admit. So I'll just use this too. My wife works for a medical device company. They purposely hire ex-athletes, NFL athletes, NBA athletes, for their team for two reasons. One, as an athlete, you kind of have that confidence, right? You go into the big game, you have confidence you're going to win it. They want that in their employees. But they're also very attractive because they know that those reps who are attractive, they can demand attention when they walk into a room with a potential client. They have that confidence to make that sale, and they're just a better representation of that company. They feel that they're a better representation of their company, being sort of the face of their company. And this is not the only company that hires ex-athletes or physically attractive people. There's a lot of them out there that do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to maybe even like the type of job or the type, like if it's a front-facing type of employment status. Obviously, there's probably the things that wouldn't be the hard facts that we would associate with performance, but just helps you open a door or get you somewhere that you normally wouldn't. Right. And that could be both, some personality, charismatic type of thing, but it could also be a looks perspective. But then, if you think about a totally different maybe thing where like, technology companies with like coders or something like that, where like literally, I don't know if they could care less about that. It's kind of like, right. I mean, they're not worried about anything around the looks. It's like how long and how good can you write script code to take on these big problems in the world where they could, nobody's going to really even see you. You're going to be buried in there, with your headphones on, your hoodie up, and you're not even going to be worried. So I don't know. I mean, I think it probably depends a lot on, the type of company, like the type of job. There's a lot of those types of things. But I mean, but to your point, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree because of your point around just like how the brain works. I don't think anybody understands how it goes. A lot of times you have a way that your brain consciously maybe makes quick decisions, and then like it's based around some slower second system or whatever that is. It's kind of like there's a lot of things going on where we instinctively make decisions, but we don't really know how that came because it's either sequence, understanding or something. So I don't know. I mean, I think that if you had a really good experience once with an attractive, guy that was a sales rep or a girl was a sales rep, you're going to maybe be more apt to do it again, right, because you had experience with that person doing well in a previous employer or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't know. There's so many things that probably go in line with it, but I think some of the lines that you're trying to draw, I don't necessarily disagree. I think there are definitely some leaps.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't know if they're, I mean, we're obviously not trying to support any of this with data, because it's not the point of this podcast. Just two guys, shooting the shit a little bit, but hopefully it gets people to think a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it made me think. I mean, I'm trying to process this as we're talking, because I'm like, it seems like that maybe is true or not. And I'm going back to some of my, prior experience in companies and things when I worked in corporate jobs. And it's like, you look at maybe certain people or certain, it's like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. And that, I don't know. Some people maybe smarter than us maybe have some data behind that or something that can.
Oh, for sure. And there's been, like I said, there's been studies done. They've been, I don't believe in America. I think Netherlands has a really good study where they followed people, I think for like 20 years. And it showed those physically attractive people end up making more money over the course of their career than those who perceive themselves as not being as attractive. And I think about it this way, like think of speed dating in corporate America. Like if you sit down and you have 10 interviews that day, and a lot of times, unless there's something that jumps off that resume, but if all those resumes and all those stories are very similar, what's the thing that hiring manager is going to remember at the end of the day? Probably who the prettiest one was. I mean, it's just, like who's the one that looked or was the biggest, or was there something about their physical appearance that stood out that they were a fan of? They might be the one that's like first of mind to that hiring manager, and not necessarily a resume jumping fact either. I mean, like you mentioned, our brains work subconsciously and consciously in weird ways. It's how we're wired. We, as human beings, are attracted to other attractive people. That's what we try. When we try to get, typically when we marry somebody we're attracted to. And I think, like, in corporate America, in the real world, the same thing happens. You're not marrying the person legally, but you're marrying that person within the corporation. And like I said, I just feel everything that I've read and experienced seems like that's the case. So leap, yes. Yes, it's a leap. And there's data out there. And like I said, I would love to hear what our listeners think and the people watching this video, because listen, I want to be wrong. Like, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that there's factual data out there that does not support my way of thinking, and I'm okay with that, because I don't necessarily think it's fair that the most attractive person gets the job. I think the most qualified should, but I don't think it always happens. And I think that there's just a preference, we'll say that, a preference given right off the bat to that person who happens to look the part, because people have perceptions of that person in a certain way.
Now watch, we're in episode 1, and I feel like you're already going to start getting hate mail.
Good.
It's going to be straight up. It's going to be maybe the BBWs or something. Somebody's going to hit you up.
Pig, bro.
Somebody's going to hit you up and say that you think that being fit makes somebody attractive, and because they're attractive, they have a better performance in their job.
Trust me, I've seen a lot of fit people who are unattractive. Okay, let me clarify that. Just because you're physically fit does not mean you're good looking, but in general. So yeah, I mean, by all means, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm an idiot. That's totally fine. Again, if I'm hiring somebody for my own company, I'm hoping that I hire somebody based on qualifications, and my subconscious mind doesn't say that person's attractive, give them the nod. Like, that's not how I'm going to grow my business. But if the person happens to be attractive and they're the most qualified for the job, then you bet your ass I'm going to give them the job, because it's going to take me to the next level. I just don't know if that's the case 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. So, do you have any other takeaway thoughts on this one, Josh?
No, I mean, I think we hit a bunch of different areas that I think are at least going to entertain some people, make them think a little bit. Going in, I think we both fundamentally agree that because of the lifestyle we live,
right,
we know that it has helped us in some way, even though we might have had short periods of time where maybe we were able to overcome it, or, some outliers in business have been able to realize that doesn't,
right,
matter that much. And to your point, it might have been even to something like they don't want to make any decisions during the day like that are, just little decisions that they don't think matter that much. Like what they need to eat shouldn't matter. They're worried about solving big problems or whatever. So it's, I think those there's two sides to this. I don't think there's a right answer to it. I think that if I was a betting man and you're trying to get that 52% to 48 and try to make sure you can make money in Vegas, like I would work out. I would bet on the working out guy or girl, because I feel like there's just some attributes that maybe subconsciously or consciously are going to help them, or it's just an aspect of just maybe helping them stay healthier longer, have more stamina longer, to work longer. I don't know what all the kind of variables would go into it, but I think if I was going to bet on something, I would bet on that side.
Yeah. Listen, we toss a lot of things here, opinion-based things. There's 2 facts in this podcast that you guys can take away from this. Fact number 1, Warren Buffett is rich as fuck. That guy's got a lot of money. Fact 2, nobody is cooler in the world than Rocky Maivia, The Rock. He is the coolest man of all time. Guys and girls, we appreciate you tuning in, listening, viewing us. And again, drop comments. Let us know what you think of the episode. Let us know what you think of the topic at conversation here, because, again, it can go either way, and we're super interested, and we will do absolutely our best to make sure that we respond and address every comment as possible. We appreciate you guys listening. Check us out. We are on several different platforms. We are on Facebook. We have an Instagram account too, don't we, Josh? And a Twitter account? that'll be up soon.
We're working on all that stuff. So I think we'll make sure we link everybody when we got those things established. But
yeah, absolutely. It's two guys, one shaker cup. Drop us a review. It helps out the algorithm on iTunes. We'll be on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, literally every podcast platform there is, and we'll be on social and YouTube as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, Josh Shaw looking fine as ever, which is why he makes so much money, and myself, Ryan Buckeye.